What needs to be done to flatten the curve and to stop this surge in new cases that we're seeing, Dr. Fauci?
Well, Robin, what we need to do is what we've been talking about for some time now, but really doubling down on it. There are certain fundamental, baseline things that you can do. Universal and uniform wearing of masks, avoiding crowded congregate situations, keeping physical distance. Even though the weather is, in the season of cool weather, try as best as possible to do things outdoors, preferentially over indoors, and wash your hands as frequently as you can. They sound very simple, and given, the really very difficult challenge we're facing, one might think that doesn't make any difference. It really does, Robin. We know that as a fact. We know that through experience.
When?
As I sit down, record this, Thanksgiving is less than 2 weeks away. Generally, the most popular holiday where families tend to gather. Unfortunately, this year, it is highly advised that people do not gather in large settings. Personally for me, growing up, we used to have Thanksgiving just the four of us, me, my mother, father, and sister. I don't think it was about, I was about 12 the first time we had like a big large gathering. My uncle had just got married, and he and his wife had hosted in their apartment complex. They had like a pool area, pool party, pool house, that's what it's called. They had a pool house, and we had the family, and then as I got married, my wife and I would either go over her family's house or my family's house. But right now, with this ensuring shutdown, possibly, it's highly advised we don't. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings with Uncomfortable Conversations. I'm Brian H. Waters here. This is your first time listening. Thank you. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends. It's an uncomfortable conversation today, indeed, as COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc all over our lives. As of now, there are millions of people who have been infected with this virus that we know of. You think about something that's different, and when it first happened around March, when they was talking about it, or if I should say February, March, when it started becoming more public and everybody was talking about it, they would tell you, make sure you wash your hands, and you saw hand sanitizer flying off the shelves. In fact, before everything was kind of the social distance and physical distance stuff was invoked, I remember going to Walmart, and I went to the restroom, and they were using their own inventory for hand sanitizer or hand soap in the restroom. And I said, this is interesting. All these years I've gone to Walmart, and it's been plenty of times I went in there and there would be no soap in the bathroom and nobody would refill it, when they could have been doing this the entire time. Well, time moves on. At first they said you don't really need to wear a mask unless you're infected, because you're not really going to protect people. And as time moved on, you learn more, and now it seems like people just don't want to wear masks, or they want to gather in large settings. I will be on my phone and I look on social media, and it is cringeworthy to me when I see people all gathered together, mask or no mask. If I see 20 people or more in a tight space, all hanging out together, it is cringeworthy. And I was in church today or yesterday, and the announcement was made that we will be now going back to virtual services. And you could kind of feel the air leave the room. A lot of people, they want to be in their service, which is understandable, especially in a house of worship, but you got to be smart. The pastor read a scripture from the Bible where it says God doesn't give us the spirit of fear, but a sound mind. And I was sitting there and I said, I'm glad we're shutting down. You got older people, and I saw people older than my parents, which I've highly advised my parents do not come to church. I'm like, my dad has to work and he drives tractor trailer, but I'm like, no, don't go to church. I know my mother's been bored, but I just didn't want them putting themselves at risk. And I sit back and I'm like, I don't understand why people don't want to wear a mask. Now, it does suck that it's possible we will be under another shutdown, but it may be necessary. And the reason is because they want to get this under control. You have a president for the remaining time who kept calling it the China virus because it came from there, and he just didn't want to take responsibility. It was later revealed that he had some information, but he didn't want to scare the American people. A previous president, President Barack Obama, he did an interview with 60 Minutes, and he talked about that. He talked about the H1N1. It was about 5 years ago when it was the Zika virus, also known as the Zika virus. He talked about what he did in that situation. Here's a clip from his interview.
Joined the president this past Wednesday behind masks and then kept our distance as the U.S. counted 143,000 known COVID infections that day, a new record. Mr. Obama had also faced an outbreak in his first term, a new flu, H1N1.
I was terrified of it and very quickly mobilized a team to figure out how are we going to take the best possible approach. And from the start, I had some very clear criteria, which was number one, we're going to follow the science. And the second thing was, let's make sure we're providing good information to the American people.
Now, I was sitting there listening, and the thing you could appreciate was the transparency. Making sure people had the information. And I sit back and I listen at people, and I just think it's very selfish for people to feel like they're invisible. They're like, oh, I'll be fine. It ain't that serious. And then on the other hand, I've seen so many people on my timeline, people who are really close to me, lose family members to this virus. And it breaks my heart every time I see those posts. I've seen people close to me have family members who have survived, but they had to spend a few days, few weeks, maybe even months in the hospital. So when people don't take it seriously, I do get offended. I do get angry. It was discovered, really known around, I say, March, April. That's when, February, March, when you started seeing the maps and the trackers. But I noticed, it was around January, February, I got sick. And I had what I thought was a cold. And I had never felt like that before. I've had the cold, I had the flu. And, you start questioning, like, well, did I have it? I don't know. And you just don't know. But because it's been, so much, and then there's different strands of it. So, I'm urging people, wear masks, folks. It's not cool, and it's not a hoax. People are really sick. People are really dying. It's like when there are these tragedies and these mass shootings, and then you find out these conspiracy theory videos, and you see people saying like all the people look alike, and I think that's just disgusting. But when it comes to this virus, when you know people affected, knowing people who have been affected personally, that's where I draw a line. I don't understand why people don't want to wear a mask. Some of them look cool, and truth be told, man, and I guess some of y'all don't want to wear them because your breath stink, but truth be told, it do prevent you from having to get close to people. I haven't smelled nobody's bad breath since February. And then we talk about a potential shutdown, and nobody wants that. And I think that's what people don't realize. Like Dr. Fauci said, I played the clip. Like, nobody really wants a shutdown. It's just that it may be necessary, and I think people have to accept that. Sitting up here saying, "Oh yeah, let's have a party before they shut everything down," or "Where I'm gonna go because they're gonna shut things down here," that's not responsible. It's not responsible at all. I don't think anybody said, "Let's shut down so people can't make money and make a living for themselves." Nobody wants to do that. But if we have the right scientists involved and the right researchers, then we can finally get things under control, because it will allow them to do their jobs and figure a way to stop the spread, but also kill it. They talk about vaccines, but you have to find treatments, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm hoping and praying that they can get this under control, because it's just sad, man. Like I said, you think about the holidays, you think about Thanksgiving, potentially Christmas. It's nothing like being in the mall around November and December. I've been on both sides as a shopper and an employee. As an employee, it can be hell, but it can also be fun when you work in, say, like, I worked at Best Buy for almost 5 years. I did 5 Black Fridays in Best Buy, and Black Friday and the day before Christmas were a couple of rewarding days, because you would have people come in there looking to make a purchase for their kids or their loved ones, and you could help them with that purchase, and then you see the smiles on their faces. You shake their hands, you give them a hug, and you see, as an employee, if you care about people, you're rewarded, because you see, like, they're going to put a smile on their loved one's face, and they were happy to give. So we're going to miss that this year. A lot of stuff will be virtually online. You may see a couple people go in the store here and there. And that's another thing. That's what's so dangerous about it, because stores like your clothing stores or your miscellaneous stores will probably have to close. Well, clothing stores may be open, but malls may be closed. And so, like, a store like GameStop, as me being a gamer, still trying to get a PS5, and I'm not paying $800 for it. But a store like GameStop is one that you look at and you're like, okay, let's see. They may have to close. Everything will be online, so they'll probably have to make their purchases and go to the store and pick it up. So we're going to miss that human interaction this year. But people, just wear your mask. Wear the mask. I saw, like, the videos of the protesters. You had Antifa, and then, I guess some of the people were Black Lives Matter organization, and then you had the Trump supporters. They going basically to war. That's a whole nother conversation itself. But I'm like, y'all clearly defying everything. So I just hope everybody get it together, man, because a shutdown, nobody wants it, but it may be necessary, folks. So that'll do it. This quick, uncomfortable conversation. I'm Brian H. Waters. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you tell your friends about it. Thank you for tuning in. couple episodes that just dropped. I had my buddy Albert Phillips on here. Albert Phillips Jr. He wrote the book Y'all Hiring. Before him was my boy Devin Ashby, who wrote the book PG vs. Moco County. JC Shannoni, who is a ESPN content producer, and she's also a part of the Galvanized group. And she, interviewed me during the summer, talking about who am I, and we flipped the seats. And then also had my friend Alexandria Gibalisco, who is a what is she now? She's a TV producer in a sense, but we talked about her times at ESPN. So it's quite a few episodes on here. So if this is your first time listening, thank you. Check out some of the other uncomfortable conversations I had. I talked about Ice Cube. I talked about the importance of voting with my boy John Gervais Jr. And then also we also got into him being an editor and not showing black people in a negative light. You also see on him that his full episode is coming up, so make sure y'all get ready for that. That's coming up in 2 weeks. We also I talked about college football this year not needing to happen, and clearly it's starting to shut down. So a lot of cool stuff right here on Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings. Make sure y'all tune in. Till the next time, do not let anybody set up a ceiling you can't break through. This podcast is brought to you by B Waters Productions. It is produced and edited by myself, Brian H. Waters, with the music brought to you by Hypnosis. You can find Hypnosis on Instagram at hypno_beats.